I'd like to welcome everyone to this evening's Monday, March 7th, 2022, regular session of the Lake Jackson City Council. Tonight, we're going to begin with a Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Rhonda Seth.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And we'll have the invocation provided to us by Councilman Buell.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you again for another wonderful day and an opportunity to meet here this evening. And as our meeting progresses, we ask that when decisions have to be made, that you give us the knowledge, the strength, and courage to make those decisions that we feel that are in the best interest of our city and our residents. We pray for our first responders. We pray for our men and women in the armed forces, both abroad and stateside. And Lord, we pray especially for those that are dealing with serious injury or illness, and especially, again, those that are dealing with the conflict overseas in Ukraine. Be with us as we go home, get each and every one of us home safely. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is visitors' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens that would like to speak to council about any item that is not on the agenda for tonight. Everybody that'd like to speak. Yeah. Please state your name and address.
My name is Gary Shambly, 139 Mulberry Street.
And a reminder is that we won't be able to comment. We can just
I understand,
listen.
yes, sir. I was here about 4 or 5 years ago to meet with the council about the drainage ditch behind my house. It was supposed to have years when the subdivision was put in behind me. They were supposed to bring culverts all the way down that ditch and tie them in and go all the way to Dixie Drive. That never happened.
Okay.
And you can look up the ditch and you can see where the culvert stopped. And so what's happening is the ditch banks are eroding away, and it's taking my fence with it. And when I was here last time, I told them, I said, I sure hope I live long enough to see something done. I just turned 80, and I said, I hope I get to see something done before I die, you know.
Right.
So that's the issue. I appreciate it. And Sal remembered all of that when that took place, and he was at that meeting last time and commented that I was actually right, what was supposed to have been done, and it never has been done. So,
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Mr. Chamberlain, can you tell me what your address is?
139 Mulberry.
139 Mulberry. I'm sorry. Thank you.
So,
And we'll follow up with you on that.
okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I can leave?
Yes, you can stay all night long if you want to, or you can leave if you wish.
And I've got your phone number.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll get back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Is anyone else?
Good evening.
Again, state your name and addresses.
My name is Michael Doherty. We live at 105 Pin Oak. We've been citizens of Lake Jackson for 43 years. And we're here tonight to ask if there's any, how we go about changing an ordinance as far as having how many animals you can have. Right now, at 103 Pin Oak, there's a lady that lives there and has 12 dogs.
And
that
we
she-
wanted to let you hear what it sounds like all day, every day on.
Uh,
Sorry.
It's okay.
This goes on all night long.
Right.
And we've talked to the humane officer, and they said that right now, the city does not have an ordinance towards how many animals they can have. And there's one for Freeport, there's one for Clute, and there's one for Brazoria, but not for Lake Jackson. Now, this lady moved in, it's a rental property. She moved in about 1.5 years now, and we've been putting up with this for 1.5 years. So we need to see if the city can have an ordinance change to where they can look into this. Because it's getting to be a little bit reluctant to have this going on for as long as it has been.
We just feel like we've been living, that we now live next door to the dog pound.
Right.
It sounds
Yeah.
like a dog pound all day and all night.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing it to us. This is something we can look into. The other thing is that I will state is that we do have a nuisance ordinance, and this is probably, my guess would be is this could start falling into the category of being a nuisance. That's how we've handled the number of animals that a home can have is once it becomes a nuisance or a health hazard, is that we can address it that way. But that's something that we can look into.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Story, can you leave our city secretary your phone number so we can contact you after?
I think I have it from
Yeah, you should have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Other thing we had a question about, we just learned that there was in the paper that they're going to turn Plantation Drive into a food truck alley. That there was 2 choices, either here in Lake Jackson or over on Plantation. And we kind of like to let them know we're opposed to that.
Okay. All right, that's good. That is on the agenda, something we're going to be talking about, but you can raise those questions or comments then at that time if you wish to again, but you've already stated your opposal to it, so. We're working through an ordinances, so feedback is good, is what we're getting right now.
That would be, the ordinance would be,
Yep.
for the dogs would be wonderful.
Well, the question you're asking about, ordinances can be changed, and this is how it gets started. Okay, so citizens come to us and say there's an issue, and that the ordinance isn't addressing a concern you have, and it's something we can look at.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Just,
Yeah.
have they talked to their neighbor?
No. Okay, ask your question.
Real quick, just, have you had an opportunity, have you spoken with this neighbor directly? Have you asked her?
Yeah, she hasn't lived there that long. She's only been there maybe 6 months. When she first moved in.
You have to come back up to the mic, but we need to cut this short, because we're getting to more discussion than we should be.
When she first moved in and we noticed all the animals, she said that those were rescue animals, and I said, oh, so you're going to find homes for them. And she said, oh, no, that's my family. And they live in the garage in crates. And then periodically she takes them out.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can I say one thing? Just one quick thing. Ma'am, have y'all got with the assistant chief of the Lake Jackson Police Department? He's in charge of animal control, and he probably can help y'all out.
We called right after she first moved in, because one time she was gone like all night, and we
But
were
the-
worried about the animals, so that we called them. And the humane officer came out and said there was nothing we could do because there's no ordinance.
Right.
As long as she's taking care of them, we can't do
Okay.
anything.
We'll follow up with you, and we'll see how we can address this. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to, is there anyone else?
Let me just verify.
Yep.
If your number hasn't changed, I have it from the Traffic Commission. Okay, I have it, thank you.
All right. We'll move on to, next item is going to be declaration of conflict of interest. This is where an opportunity for members of city council can declare if they have a conflict of interest on any agenda item. Is there any declaration to be declared? Conflict to be declared? Hearing none, we'll move forward to the consent agenda. Consent agenda, we have item 1 is approval of minutes of February 22. And then we have accept boards and commission minutes from planners, Keep Lake Jackson Beautiful, and Parks. Do you have any requests to remove an item from the consent agenda? Not hearing so, I'll take motion on consent agenda.
Move for approval
Second.
on
Second.
item 1, 2, and A and B on the consent agenda.
Okay, you said it's just A and B.
I mean, A, B,
And
A,
C.
B, and C. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
And we have a second by Councilman Buell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Move on to regular agenda. We have item 1, which is discuss guidelines and requirements for mobile food establishments and mobile food establishment courts. Mr. Lee Garcia has requested to have this on the agenda to talk about his comments.
Actually, it's Reverend Lee Garcia.
Okay.
That's fine. Kind of nervous. I got me some notes.
You look familiar. How long have you been in this area?
Forever.
Forever.
Since I was 5 years old.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up right here in this area.
Okay.
I raised my boys here in Lake Jackson.
Yeah.
They both went to Brazoswood.
Okay.
I think I met you when you were running for mayor. I was out there, and you were under a little tent, and we shook hands.
Okay. The little tent, yeah, for 18 days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was hot. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, good.
My name's Ruben Garcia, and my business is with Winnie's. I don't know if any of y'all know about that, but this coming March, the 27th, 24th, it's going to be there 48 years. So the way this all got started with the food truck is, of course, COVID hit. And so we got shut down for months because of COVID. And so the restaurants got shut down, the bars got shut down, as all of y'all know. So then TABC came out and said, okay, the restaurants can open and they can open their bars, but straight bars cannot open. So a little bit after that, they came out and said, okay, if you sell food at your bar, then you can open. They said if you get a food truck, whatever, you can put a barbecue pit out there. We don't care. As long as you sell food, then you can open. So we were shut down for months and months and months, and those bills never stopped. I mean, they just kept coming. So we decided we were going to get us a food truck and alleviate that in case this comes back again this coming fall, as they claim it's going to. So my two sons run it. I still work. I work for JVIC. And we took it over 4 years ago from Adeli Mendoza. Y'all might know her better as the one that they own the lounge, and they also own the wings over Texas.
Right.
And her sister, who's my son's sister-in-law, owns the backyard patio and the downtown tacos. My son's general manager of the patio, and he's also head cook there, so we know a little bit about food preparation. So I understand by reading the minutes on February 22nd, y'all had y'all's questions.
Right.
So the coffee truck that's out there is owned by a lady by the name of Shannon Nealon, and she's a nonprofit. She uses her money for buying backpacks for kids that are underprivileged, and for school supplies. She helps the veterans, and she has FundMe pages for people that get in the hospital and can't afford it. She opens up FundMe pages for her. We're real proud to have her on there. She's got a good clientele base. She loves that place, and we'd hate to have to see her move, because she's already had to move twice because the people that she was mixed up with said that she took too much room. Like, she'll always have 3 or 4 cars parked in trying to get a cup of coffee. So, but it works out good for us because we've got plenty of parking and plenty of room for her. So, and not only that, but my sons have the food handler certificates. They have everything they need. We already have our vendors. We've got our accounts open with them. We have everything set up except the city's permission and the inspection. That's the only thing we lack. I've already put in, by the time this is done, I'm probably gonna have 50,000 in that little trailer in case y'all don't know how expensive those things are. Everything's got to be stainless steel. And this is brand new, right out of the box. Everything in it's brand new, had never been used, still got the plastic on it. So, like I say, we probably would never thought about it, but the COVID hit. And we were shut down for months, and like I say, them bills just kept coming. So to protect ourselves, here I am.
Mr. Christie, I had a question. You mentioned you have a trailer, so you're trying to put a trailer there in addition to the coffee trailer?
Yes.
Okay.
She came to us a few months ago because she was across the street, and between the car wash and the dairy bar, and they said she was just, her clientele was just disrupting things too much because of between the two buildings, the two businesses. So she came across the street and asked us if she could move there.
And does she move her trailer every night?
No. All she has is water. All she does is make coffee. She sells little bitty cupcakes and little cakes and like that they make. And no, she does not. And to move one of those trailers is a bigger deal than you think, because for one thing, I don't think Lake Jackson's gonna let you park in the driveways, correct?
For a food truck
It needs to be less than 35 feet.
So all I'm asking is, you know, she's a good girl. I mean, she does it all for nonprofit. She gives her money and all of that, and she helps the veterans and all of that with it. And she's
long-
not here today. She'll be here on the next meeting.
How long is she open?
She's open from, I think, 5 till 2.
5 in the morning?
Okay, she just changed her hours 6 to 6.
0600 to 6?
Yes, sir, 6 in the morning to 6. And then she's got I don't know if you've ever stopped there to get a cup of coffee, but it is hands down just great.
But on your property, you want to put what we would call 2 food trucks. That's your expectation, is trying to fit 2 on
Well, I don't know if you would call hers a food truck, but if you say so.
there. Okay.
but-
Well, I really don't.
Well,
I don't
see,
know.
we own the property, we have the property all the way from that it's an insurance company, correct? All the way to the other side of Winnie's where the old chicken place was. So, and my sons called up the city and asked them if they could put a power pole there for a trailer there, and they were told them, sure, go ahead, so we did.
So there's permanent power there. She's not on generator.
No, yes,
Yeah.
she's got power.
The only time she's on the generator is if power fails.
Yeah,
Other than that, she's got power.
like all of these. Yeah.
Do you have a grease trap on the property?
Grease traps are the easiest thing you can get. One grease trap it's just a metal box that you pour your oil into it, and you've got people clamoring to come and get that. They come and get it free, because they turn around and they can resell it after they filter it, or they make diesel out of it. We have a friend of ours, Buchanan, he makes diesel out of it, and when he burns it, it smells like French fries. No, I'm talking about us. Now, the grease trap, also they have a portable grease trap that we're gonna have that you can wheel it around and then end up throwing your water, which is just dishwater, into the septic lines itself. It pumps it into there. So I don't see that being an issue.
Now, the reason why I'm asking the question is because what's before, council has asked staff to look at, a 2-prong approach. One is single trucks that operate, throughout the city on any property, and how long they can stay, and, what the conditions they need to meet. And the other one is if all of a sudden, if there's more than one, if there's 2, then is that defined as what we would define as a food truck court, and then what parameters or what guidelines we would have them fall under? Because then it starts to it could become like a regular restaurant, and what guidelines do we want them to do? So we'll really have 2 ordinances, one for a food truck operating independently, and another one where there's a property where there may be, 2, 3, 4, 5 food trucks.
Right.
Yeah, and so, what you're describing is for example, if you would want to go forward with having 2 of them there is that you would start going into the boundaries in the area of the food truck court versus just individual food truck. Because right now, right now the discussion has been is with the food truck ordinance would be restricting just one food truck per property. And there's be some guidelines on how that has to be set up for a food truck. They would have to, they'd have to have an arrangement with the property owner and so forth, and they would have to come and go every 24 hours at an individual. That's where we're at right now. But that's all up being discussed.
But council's also asked us to look at the concept
Right,
of,
concept.
Right.
of a food truck court,
Right.
which would be
That's the other
more
option.
than,
Well,
more
see,
than one.
like in Surfside, they actually built an area
Right.
for them.
And that's
to
what we're
have.
looking at
But
partly.
in my case, though, see, that isn't gonna help me none with the TABC's restrictions on being able to sell food there.
Your concern is if TABC or governor
Because of
shuts
the-
us down again.
Yes, because this was, and they made a cutout just for COVID, and who knows if that is ever gonna go away. So, I understand that y'all have, Lake Jackson's city of enchantment is beautiful. Nobody wants to, trash it. Nobody wants to make it anything less than what it is now. I understand that. I grew up right here. I raised my boys here, and I understand Lake Jackson has probably got the highest standards of. I mean, we're also in the electrical business, and y'all have got the hardest. I mean, when the inspector comes, you better have it right, because it's nothing like Clute or Freeport or even Angleton. I mean, Lake Jackson is got
Well,
their
I
way up
understand.
here.
Just to go back to your comment about if a COVID or something like that would ever come again, is just like in that situation is that exceptions were made during that time period. Just like whenever the governor came back and said that businesses could sell mixed drinks, to go and all that kind of stuff. Those were completely out of the realm. Nobody ever thought of that, allowing that to happen, and that was allowed to happen. So, I mean, even if we would go forward with an ordinance that would restrict you to one truck, again, if you're just going with a non-food court type situation, if you're just going with a business that was allowing a food truck to come onto your property on a daily basis, I would expect that if exceptions were made in the past, that exceptions would probably be made in the future to help businesses be successful. Because I don't think anybody that was sitting up here was in favor of shutting down businesses.
Right.
Okay.
Well, if y'all recall, the governor shut everybody down.
Right.
And then he turned around and opened it up. Right. And then he turned around and shut it down again. Right. And that was the biggest.
Yeah.
I understand.
We barely made it.
I
through it.
personally don't want y'all to get disheartened over the conversation. I personally appreciate your resourcefulness to be able to survive. I think
Well, like I
that's
say, the bills never stopped.
impressive, right?
I mean, the mortgage kept coming, the
We're having a conversation
electrical
now.
kept coming, the
about-
city, we kept all the city facilities going.
Right.
DirecTV, because the governor shut us down and opened it back up, and then he shut us down again. We never knew when he's gonna, he might do it 2 weeks from now, and it turned out to be months and months and months.
Right.
So that's why we kept everything going, and it was just out of pocket, out of pocket, out of pocket.
And
Yeah,
the feedback is good.
Yeah, the feedback is good, and the other reason why we're looking at this is because food trucks are getting out of control right now along Plantation Drive.
I understand.
And we have to come back, and as far as food trucks go, Lake Jackson is probably the most lenient currently than some of the other area cities that we have.
I
And
get
s-
it.
And so, we don't want to run them out of the city, but we want to put some appropriate guidelines in place
Sure.
so that everybody's playing by the same rules.
Right. The only thing I
And-
would ask is this thing about moving every night. That's a tough thing to do.
But again, it depends on this, and that we understand, and again, it's good that you're bringing this to us. But for an example, for you, I don't want to jump to solution, but I guess I'm a little bit going to jump to solution here, is that yours is tied to your business. Okay? So it's an integral part of it could be just like some restaurants have, I mean, I think Backyard has
Yeah.
a trailer there, and that's part of your business. And so that's something we have to work into the ordinance as we go forward of is that if that food truck plays a part of your kitchen for your business, and it meets all the requirements to be a commercial kitchen and all that kind of stuff, that can be worked into the ordinance. But what we don't want is people just coming in and just arbitrarily finding an open lot and parking their truck there and leaving it there 24/7,
I
running
understand.
generators
I understand your
and all that kind of stuff.
point
So that's what we're trying to do.
completely.
So we're again, we appreciate you coming and sharing your views. And as we go forward with this, you'll have the opportunity to see what we're doing. You can call and ask where we're at on this or whatever type stuff, but, continue to provide your input on it. Because even when it comes back to council, it's going to be discussed several times before
Sure.
it becomes an ordinance.
I'm sorry.
Mayor, what we may do is I'll ask staff to look at it, maybe we're dividing it the wrong way. It could be, what are the rules for a temporary food truck or moving every night? And what is it if it's a permanent installation? One or more, stuff.
Right.
One could trigger, if it wants to stay there, could trigger the food truck, court.
Right.
It's like, if you're gonna park it there and leave it there, then it has to meet all of these standards, and stuff, and that may be a high bar, but it's like, well, but you wanna keep it, there, so we may look at it, that may
Right.
be a way
A
to
little
look
bit
at
different
it.
way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
My name's Dylan Garcia. I'm my daddy. As far as moving the trucks every 24 hours, that is a good thing if you have a commissary to go to. There's no facilities around here for that. There's no, like when you go to bigger cities, New York, Chicago, Houston I'm not even sure if Houston even does, but they have huge warehouses
Right.
that they subdivide into kitchens. And then they have, water dumping sites and everything else. And so it makes it convenient for one person to have 4, 5, 6 trucks that they can distribute to different parts of the city. And then they can come back every night and refresh. In all the trucks that I know around here, well, none of us do it because there's just nowhere to go. But if you have the refrigeration in your truck and the prep area and the amenities in your equipment, your stove, your fryers and all those things to do your prep and do your cooking in-house, then I don't see a reason why you would require somebody to move every 24 hours.
But what do you do with your gray waters and all your waste?
Current ordinance says you can partner with somebody, like he can take it to the backyard to his place or the house, or where, as long as you have some place that's on paper that you have an agreement with. That's what the current ordinance
Right,
says.
but you have to leave the area to go
Yeah, you put
do
in
your
tanks.
dump.
Yeah, but we don't have to dump it every night, especially grease. Grease, you change your fryers once a week, and then you have receptacle on site. Actually, they'll come to you and they'll actually pay you for your grease.
Right.
As far as the gray water goes, that probably has to be done every day. But they also make portable receptacles that I could drain it right out of my truck and take it and then go dump it without ever having to move the truck or the trailer as we have it.
Right. Now, if you're talking about the portable containers that are used at camp yards, that's not gonna work on our city streets.
I don't really know. I'm not really.
There are little tanks, 15-gallon tanks that you can hook up to your trailer, to your hitch on your trailer and tow it to a dump site,
Well, I can
set
see that
and
because you
stuff.
don't want it one dumping over and.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
you know
but
that.
anyway, the idea is of leaving every 24 hours is so that all that stuff can go where it belongs appropriately, and then the truck comes back fresh and ready to run again. So that's why we're talking about that.
I want you to just keep in mind, where's it supposed to go? Where, is.
Well, you have to have an agreement with somebody to get rid of it,
Well, we'll
to
have
be able to
that.
operate in the city.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
But that's what all the trailers are currently doing now.
Yeah.
They all have an agreement
Supposedly.
with us somewhere.
supposedly. There's trailers that have not moved for years.
Right, but I'm saying they have an agreement to go take their waste elsewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
They take it every day.
I don't know. 'cause I'm not-
Yeah, we don't.
I'm not-
We only can do.
And the other issue
I
we,
don't know what we're trying to do.
the other issue that we have is that we have trailers that are deciding to come to a parking lot by agreement or not, but then they're setting up next door to a neighbor, to a resident. And so this ordinance is probably going to come in and say that you're going to have, there's going to be a setback tied to that and so forth, so that you're not disturbing a neighbor just because you want to have a food truck operating till midnight.
That's
Next to
perfectly
somebody's door.
understandable.
Yes,
Yeah.
and if we install you know, we can install a grease trap on site, you
Yeah.
know, that would not
Right.
be an issue either, so.
But again,
tie
I-
into our water line, so.
Yeah.
And like you said, you know, I don't wanna use the word exceptions, but people can work with other, you know, we can work with y'all can work with us, and we can try to figure it out.
That's the idea. I mean, we don't, we only know what we know right now about food trucks, and so y'all share some more information.
Work in progress.
The
Yeah,
other
your
issue,
input- that's- your
as
input
far as
is
one,
good.
one truck per site goes,
Kinda educated us, so.
Ours is 2 addresses.
yeah, we have
got
2
109
addresses.
and 111. It's on there, I don't know if you would clarify it as proof surface, but there's about 6 inches of caliche rock that's there. I mean, there's some grass growing over it, but if you get under it, it's blocked up.
And he knows because he dug a hole for that
Yeah,
post.
Yeah.
over the post.
But,
So,
and we heard something about maybe because they're on a, what would be called a vacant lot, that, you know, well, there's no restroom for them, but I mean, the
it's
building's
tied
20
down.
feet away,
well, it's a
you
little more
know,
than that, but
yeah.
Right.
It's just, you know,
It's right
they,
there.
they'd be using the same restroom, the same lot, you know.
If y'all was to make
Yeah, it just
that-
has to be
And so-
arrangements made for, so
And
that
so
it
it would
can be
still be
used.
one truck
Again,
per lot.
I don't think we're very far away. I think you're sharing with us some information that we didn't have, and we can work that into the ordinances we develop,
That's
the
what we're really
ordinances and
Well,
stuff
we're
like
also
that.
trying to get ours,
Yeah.
Do I now?
we're also trying to get ours open too.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna
And,
probably come from
if
inspection
this is
this week.
going to- Yeah, how this is gonna affect us, or if we can move forward now, whatever the case may be.
We don't have an ordinance, that keeps you from doing it today.
Okay.
All right, cool.
I don't
That's the
think.
main reason.
very
Also,
much.
the last thing is making,
That's true, but
Since we're discussing.
whatever is discussing, that will be a key question of, we will be asking all the food trucks to then come into compliance. And then the question is, you know, how long do you want to give all the properties of when? So there's no grandfathering in this possible occasion. It's gonna be, if all of a sudden, if there's a requirement that, you know, these 2 food trucks or, you know, on a property have to put in a grease trap, then the question is, how long do we give them,
Right.
you know, for that? So, that's why we want to keep the conversation going, and so you can see what is possibly heading
Gives
your
us time to
heading
make
your
it
way.
happen. I mean, we
But
don't
some of the discussion that we had is, going back to just a food truck, is that you as a property owner, you go over there and you say, okay, I want to allow a food truck to come in and set up here because it'll help bring traffic into my business and stuff. And so there'll be some requirements for you to be able to operate, be able to have a food truck come in. Once you're set up to be able to operate have a food truck come in and out, is that then you can go back and you can go out and contract with anybody to come in and out. You'll have control over who does it. But once you've established it as a property owner, that's an asset for you, and it's something you put. So again, it goes back to what you're trying to do. I don't think we're that far apart.
Well, we appreciate y'all's time, and I think we've taken
Thank y'all for
quite a
showing
share.
up.
So we encourage you to come to the next meeting, though, because
Oh,
there'll
we'll
probably be
definitely.
We'll be
a
on the
long,
21st.
fruitful
long process.
discussion at that time.
the only thing we ask you, like I said too, is length of time that one can sit in the spot, whether it be, because I remember on 22nd, y'all were talking about whether it be 30 days, 90 days, 6 months. Well, how would you establish a steady clientele if you're constantly having to move every so often? Or what if you can't find another place to go to? Then what does that do for your business?
I understand that.
Ours is tied to,
Yeah.
ours is tied to our personal
Right.
business, so we wouldn't want to move that at all, but we're talking about a coffee truck or whatever the case may be.
But that's the life of food trucks, though. I mean, their
Otherwise, they'd be
clientele
brick and
follows
mortar.
them.
Well, that's
Yeah.
our goal, is to move up to that place.
But the food trucks, their clientele follows them. I mean, there's a food truck that I follow that does just seafood, and I can't get him to come to Lake Jackson, but he'll go to everywhere else, Needville or wherever
Bar
type
X.
stuff. Or, yeah, Bar X, yeah. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
And he sells out within 4 hours or whatever of the day. But anyway, appreciate your feedback, and and you'll have the opportunity to participate in further discussions as we talk about it some more.
I think
Well,
you have
thank
a
you for
unique
your time.
situation. I
Sorry?
think you have a unique situation that you're willing to provide the grease trap and everything for your trailer, so you may not have to move, so we can, the ordinance could say, if you're providing that for on-site, you don't have to move, but if you're not providing that on-site,
Right.
then you have to move every 24 hours, so.
What about the ones that doesn't require grease?
coffee truck, all she's got is water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like my
She
cousin
doesn't
has-
have anything in there but to heat the water up.
Or my cousin has coffee, so he does boil water.
It will work, I mean, those are, you know, we go through those
Like
same,
details, you know.
we go through the same restaurants for regular restaurants and stuff, or a coffee shop. I mean, I would have to defer to David.
Like
but-
a backyard, for example, we took the tires off and we literally hard piped it in, so it's really more like
Yeah.
a outdoor kitchen than it is a
Right.
trade.
I think the fuel station did the same thing.
Yeah, I think the fuel station does. the
Right,
same thing.
right, yeah. And those have worked well for us, and those haven't been an issue for us. Again, it's gotten out of hand, and we need to pull it back a little bit, put some guidelines out there so that we can treat everybody the same, and so everybody knows going forward. So that's what we're trying to achieve.
And don't ever feel nervous about
Coming.
coming
And
to
talk
talk
to
to us.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. We'll move on to item 2, discuss and consider the request for a right turn lane at the intersection of Highway 332, Feeder Road, and westbound Plantation Drive. Sabrina.
This has come before Traffic Commission. We had a citizen request to look at either making a dedicated right turn lane or additional lane or something to kind of deal with the traffic right there at Plantation Drive and the feeder. The issue they feel is when traffic wants to go straight, as currently the lanes are marked, like say they're going to Buc-ee's or something like that, anybody that wants to get onto the feeder right there to make that right turn lane is having to wait. So a lot of times that forces them to go down to catch it right there at Plantation Court, and then they're trying to merge on over into the highway. They feel this causes an unsafe situation, a potentially unsafe situation with traffic there. And so in the discussion with traffic, the Traffic Commission, we were just really kind of looking for a little more information. Do we want to, I've been in contact with TxDOT and have a few talks that we've had with them. There'll be some permitting that needs to be done, some traffic studies that need to be done as per TxDOT, depending on what we're kind of looking at. Staff has, Sal and myself have looked at a few different issues that we could go with, again, with TxDOT's blessing. And what we're really seeking here from council is is this an issue that you want me to go further in? Do we want to go back to traffic? Where would we like to proceed on this matter?
So if they're gonna do a traffic study, you'll never get a true picture of what happens in Plantation as long as the Plantation Court throughfare is there, because people are not taking the Plantation straight. They're going through all the way down to the end and taking Plantation Court. And
That would be included in the traffic study, I believe, sir, because they'd have to see the different options,
Right.
not just for there. One of the concerns, like I said, is if we make this a just right turn lane only, then we're going to back up traffic down and around and back down Plantation itself. So with that issue being in there, they would be looking at relief streets for it.
Right.
So I do believe that we would take in, maybe not go and do a complete study down there, but it would be considered in anything that we did for that section of Plantation Drive.
I thought we did a complete study when we redone the freeway there.
That was before my time, sir. I'm not sure on that.
There's probably been several traffic studies done because this issue has come up to council several
Right,
times
correct.
about this concern. The challenge that I have is that, yes, you have the concern, but if you drive down and headed south from Oyster Creek Drive, pass up all the way past
Oyster Creek Drive.
Chili's, from Oyster Creek Drive on 332, 288 on the feeder, is if you go all the way from that intersection down to Lowe's, you have the identical situation. You have where people can jump off of Abner Jackson and try to jump up onto 288, 332, just like here. If you go down further, it's the same situation. If they want to come out of Lowe's, they're going to jump out and they're going to try to get on the highway, just the same way. So it falls back to the way TxDOT designed the feeders. And all the way up, even in front of the rec center, you have, not the rec center, the civic center, you have almost the same situation, just less traffic flow. But I would say over at Lowe's and And like I said, from the intersection of Washer Creek Drive, past Lowe's is the same volume, if not more volume, than what this issue is right here.
The only difference here is on this street here, this is you have an alternate road that people are taking to avoid that situation. That's not the case on those other streets, so they don't have to look at the right-hand side lane when people are cutting through into the, so not only the people coming on the plantation are taking a right, going to take their exit ramp, or not exit ramp, on-ramp for 332. The people on Plantation Court are doing the same thing. So you have two close intersections trying to do the same thing for the same on-ramp.
Yeah, you have this intersection trying to get on there, this intersection trying to get on there, and this intersection trying to get on there. This is Orchard Creek Drive, this is Jackson Abner Jackson, and this is Lowe's. Same situation, except for this piece here. That's not there. Okay, but the same situation. The concern is that people may not have enough time if they decide to come down this way to beat this light, which I don't understand. But I know there's some people on staff that like to do this too. But they're younger than I am. But anyway, to come over here and jump up on 288, 332, and then, like I said, these people right here, they can come out right here, and there's no white line that keeps them from trying to jump out and get on 333 or 288.
There is no third intersection. The next one is past Yopon.
Magnolia.
Sorry, you're right. Magnolia
Okay.
is there.
So we have this situation all along 332 of the feeders along 332, 288. And when you go back to Plantation Drive, I understand that the request is to make that a right-hand turn lane only. The challenge that you have when you go do this is, again, just like the request to do the right-hand turn lane only on Orchard Creek Drive, is that lane will stack up, and once that stacks up, people will do what you don't want them to do, and that is they're going to go down Plantation, they'll take the jump and go on. So we can't spend enough money to fix the problem.
I mean, we're making them turn right. They turning right anyway, right?
Yes, sir.
They're-
You're allowed to turn right on red.
Yep.
They're gonna turn right anyway, so
The
what-
issue is
what I'm
if there's
talking about-
cars that want to go straight, sir, then that causes a delay and a small backup there
I know.
of any vehicles that might want to go to the right. So they avoid that by going straight on down and catching it at the court. And then
Sabrina,
that shortens the.
What I was saying is that, yes, you can go in and we can put in a right-hand turn lane. Make it 5 cars lengths, 20 car lengths, or whatever, is that if there's heavy traffic flowing this way, that lane will stack up and people will say, I don't want to wait. And they're going to go, just like they're doing now. They don't want to go through the intersection. They're going to drive over here and do the jump.
And that's the only.
And we're going to spend $500,000 to $1 million to go put something in there.
I thought
Yeah,
part of
but-
the proposal too, though, was to cut that off.
Yeah.
That was
No
one of the
access.
That's one of the
suggestions earlier. That
suggestions.
is not necessarily a
And then what are you going to
proposal
do
that
about the
will go along.
neighbors that live in this area that want to use that exit?
They've all signed the petition to say they're fine with it, to go down to the Plantation exit, well ahead.
Yeah, but the only backup problem is early in the morning or late in the evening, correct? Am I right or wrong? Just school
School
time
zone time,
early?
sir, yes.
I mean,
It's lunch and school and
Yeah.
end of
Yes,
school
yes,
day.
it's just lunch and school time. I mean, it's,
Summertime, there's no problem.
Sabrina, let me ask this question. When your discussion with TxDOT, you said that they're okay, and I think, my memory is that they were okay in the past as well. If we wanted to close that, they're okay with that.
Closing where it hits at Plantation Court, sir?
Plantation Court,
Yes,
what
sir.
I would call the opening there. Is there a requirement that we do a study if we were only doing that?
I would have to file for a permit with TxDOT to let them look into the situation, and I don't know if that's going to require a traffic study.
But they
I might
are,
assume.
but if we do want to make any changes here, that would require a
Yes, sir.
traffic study.
They came back to me today and told me that it would need a traffic study, an approved traffic study that would have to be done.
So they're in agreement there at the court
to block it off.
Block it off where it
completely.
forces them to come down the
It
bucket.
doesn't necessarily say
They're
that
not-
they're in
they're
agreement.
not
It
in
says that
agreement.
they're willing to talk about that, but I would have to apply for a
He said
permit to
if
do
They
that.
were all in agreement, so, okay.
The citizens.
The citizens on
I got it,
plantation.
I got it.
Yes, Citizens on Matthew Bajune, part of the Planning and Zoning Commission Secretary. Citizens of Plantation Court have all agreed to come forth when called upon to discuss closing it off either completely
Right.
or just the exit point.
Your comment a while ago, what
Yeah.
I heard, they're all in agreement.
Yes, sir.
That wasn't said what you just said, so that's what I said, what I did.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Understand. Okay.
And 44,000 cars in 30 days. That's more than the Lowe's one. 44,000 cars in 40 days went through that spot.
To the plantation court exit.
Through the sole Plantation Court exit.
Yeah, that's a lot of
And
calls.
there's 2 stop signs there that nobody ever stops at.
Right.
Again, as I was saying, is that the challenge that you're going to have is that this lane, however long you make it, it will stack up. And once it starts stacking up, the 42,000 cars that you're talking about are going to find another way to go. And they're going to go this way. Unless you block that road off, then they're going to stack up here and they're going to stack all the way down here. So there is no good solution. We're just going to, what we're going to do is squeeze the bubble and move that traffic somewhere else.
Right, Travis Pate, 302 Caladium. I was in the traffic commission meeting for this, and that is a problem that I thought of as well. Like the Anyway Street issue we're having now, where they're deciding whether to do speed humps or whatever the case may be. This is exactly what's going to happen. I live on Caladium, so I have to deal with this every morning. I try to reroute, but it's not easy. Like I said, you got to play leapfrog or Frogger between Plantation Court, Magnolia, because that traffic is horrendous morning and evening. Maybe if it's not a right turn lane, could we maybe start with a flashing light like we have at Oyster Creek and Plantation? I know flashing lights aren't that effective, being a patrolman here for 7.5 years, but it's a start. Maybe if it was highly patrolled, people in the morning and afternoons would understand that if you were going to be in that right lane, you need to turn right between the hours of 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., 9 a.m., something like that.
Mr. Pate, where are you suggesting the flashing light?
Where we're wanting the right turn lane, right there. So that right lane between the hours of maybe 7 and 9.
Just like we did at Oyster Creek Drive.
Oyster
Right.
Creek Drive, putting something that
That
between
would
these
probably be the
hours, you
cheapest
have
way
to
out
turn right.
to at least get this moving and maybe some alleviation of traffic
Same thing we had
congestion.
OCD and Dixie.
Plantation.
Right, Dixie.
Oh, Dixie.
OCD and
yeah,
Dixie.
my
Right
bad.
there,
Sa-
Kroger's.
Sabrina,
Yeah, right
Sal,
there,
Sal, what's your experience on there at the intersection? Does that still need any kind of even signage like that? Would that need TxDOT's blessing? Okay,
Yeah. To go onto the feeder road like that, yeah.
that's a different way to think about it.
It's probably easier than a right turn lane, cheaper.
It's
It would also-
definitely cheaper.
To give you the opportunity to see if it actually works.
People would use it in lieu of the,
Is that something you could explore, if the council is open to, is that something you could explore with TxDOT conversation-wise to see
Yes.
if, would they still require a traffic study?
Yes, I can do that.
Is it okay to say something as a citizen?
No.
You lost that right whenever you hired on.
Unless you're a
Yes.
traffic
Yes,
engineer,
David.
I don't need
Yes.
another opinion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go
ahead, Dave.
David Walton, 110 Papaya. All I was going to say is having observed that off and on for the past 7 years, I oftentimes see people accelerate quite a lot to try and beat the traffic at that light, just to try and get up to that intersection faster than the people who are taking true plantation.
Exactly.
I mean, if the problem truly is largely school-based cars, then a timed right turn only might
In the
be-
morning, there are two certain times where we see a predominant amount of traffic
The peak was 11 to
Use-
12 and 3 to 4.
use here, and they're probably trying to get away from here. it's worth a question to talk to TxDOT. See, I still think, my gut is gonna tell me that they're still
They're
gonna
gonna wanna
say,
study.
you're gonna wanna study and have them look at, all kinds of, solutions.
And that, one question that was asked too at the traffic, was, was a study not already done?
No.
No.
The only study that was ever done
So
on.
they just came and designed it however they wanted?
Well, yeah,
without-
that's the only time that there would have been a study is when they expanded the roadway and put the frontage roads in.
And
When
what-
they put all that
There's-
in, they
there's
did do
not-
a study.
Yeah, there's not been another study conducted by the city after.
Right, but I mean, TxDOT, I guess I just assume TxDOT has already thought about this and came up with this solution, but maybe that's not true?
No. What we have is their solution.
Yes, this was their
But,
solution.
but how informed was their solution, maybe is my question. If they've already done the same study we're about to do, then it's,
Well, let's Sabrina talk to them. I mean,
Typically, TxDOT does quite a bit of traffic studies on any design they have
Right.
prior to putting out the final plans. So it's been well thought of.
so might we have access to that?
I'm sure if they want to release that information, I mean, probably so. If we ask them and see whether they could release it.
well, can't she make a call or anybody make a call?
Oh, yeah,
and
definitely
ask them
so.
if they
No,
got it
yeah,
and
you
solve
can,
it?
you
I
can
mean,
do that, yes.
Yeah, again,
See what they,
if it was something that they were worried about at that time, they would have,
You
that
have
may
to
have
rem-
closed this.
You have to remember how long those plans take in developing, and the traffic counts that were taken back in those days.
Well,
I mean, probably goes 20 years back.
and I'm sure it was done
Or
before
more.
Buc-ee's was there, which is the large draw for people
Yes.
No,
stopping
yeah,
and
it
going
was done there
straight,
before Buc-ee's.
right? So Buc-ee's changed the game because now you're more likely to get it plugged
Oh,
up
no,
with somebody
definitely.
going straight, so, okay.
Things have
Fair
changed,
enough.
and yes.
You can drive down there at 8 o'clock and you have the same situation rather than just, peak hours. So unless you're gonna close off Plantation Court exit onto the freeway, you're not gonna change
Have-
anything.
Yep.
Have they looked at a study of coming off Plantation onto the freeway right here and just have, or maybe the city can do it, right-hand turn lane where you can not digress, but
Where are you do you have a
Where you talk-
pointer?
where
Could
you
you
talking
point,
about?
please?
right here, just cut in here, and the ones that's gonna turn only, and they can just
So go to-
build up their speed here, sort of like a U-turn up on the freeway. Instead of getting back on the freeway, just make a U-turn, and they can just, instead of coming up to the light and stopping and having to go.
Yeah,
To the traffic.
Mr. Baker, that's really what it is. If, TxDOT is telling us that if you want to make any kind of alterations here, we have to conduct a study
Well,
and look at that. We we can't just put a turn lane in there.
Okay,
but they gonna give us their okay just putting a sign?
well, it's there, it's the
That's
state
what we,
highway.
That's what I'm-
that is a question that we'll have to ask if,
Yeah, let her,
the timing, the light stuff. Sabrina will have to ask that question, to TxDOT if they'll.
I think if I can remember, cause I was on a motorcycle back then, we had a big fight about trying to keep Magnolia open. It used to be you used to go straight through to Magnolia, and they closed that part off and wouldn't let you go that way. You had to come out and go.
Right.
And that was
Yes.
a big study. They had a big study about that.
And we've discussed that several times on council about coming back and putting that back in.
Yeah, and putting it back in there. That
and-
would.
And we've always chose not to do that. You have comment?
Yeah, I had
No, you need name and
Chase
address.
Blanchard at 108 Port Chilaka.
Okay.
So we also had the question brought up to me today was there is no, if you're going to walk from Buc-ee's across underneath the highway, there is no sidewalk right there to get you to Plantation. So if we're going to
Correct.
add a turn lane, we may think about that. But it keeps getting said that this has been brought to council, this has been brought to council. Well, then I think council needs to do something about it instead of just brushing it off. We at least need to do the study.
We just
and
can't
see.
do it.
Right.
That's a state.
Let's do the study
the
and let's
state
get the
have
ball
to do it.
rolling instead
Yeah.
of just,
The thing you need to understand is we don't brush things off.
right.
Okay, we'd go and we study it, and we ask permission to be able to put a sidewalk in that you're talking about. We would have to get permission from TxDOT to go do that.
Correct.
TxDOT is not crazy about putting pedestrians close to the roadways. That's been the history to date. That's
Yeah,
as long-
but
as
I
long as
saw
I've
where
been
they
here.
were coming from. We got to get them a way to get to Plantation also.
I
Especially
understand.
for the bicycles, and the guy that asked me today was in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
So
like
I
the mayor
understand
said,
that.
city council is not brushing it off. We're at the bottom of the food chain.
Right.
We're at the very
But
bottom of
we've
the
got,
food
if
chain.
we got to do the
But-
study, then let's do the study. You know?
The study that we're talking about right now is going to be, unless council wants to do something different, is to take the request back to TxDOT and talk to them about this option of going with the flashing right-hand turn lane at certain periods of time. And see it, and putting signage up, and that would be a change to the traffic light also. And see what, if they have issue with that, and if they're gonna require us to do a
It could be
traffic
that the
study.
state deny our study.
Well, that one on Oyster Creek Drive is in there now. There's no flashing or nothing. It's just a sign. You must turn right from such time. There's no flashing going on. There's a sign hanging down
Right. It is-
saying from
it's
this
just a
time on,
sign.
this, so why? I mean, just talk to TxDOT and see if we can put a sign up there.
I can talk to
I mean,
TxDOT.
I don't know.
We'll do that.
See
if-
what the,
We'll do that, and then if they say, no, you have to study, we have in contact with our traffic engineer with Kimley Horn. We'll also try to develop a scope of work and get a cost proposal, from them, so we're not losing any time. But most likely, if it is a study, it's something that's not budgeted, it'll have to be on the CIP, it's something that can't be, it's not something that Sabrina most likely can't afford in the operating budget. So we'll have to see if, but we'll work on getting an estimate if TxDOT, requires it or not.
I have a random question. Can you scroll down? Sal probably knows this answer. One more to the next one. Sorry, right there. Why does it do this? I always wondered that. Why doesn't it just go straight through? Is that what under there? A bunch of stuff? I know there's utilities over here. I just didn't know they were. Are they over here too, Sal?
Excuse me, I'm sorry?
Is it utilities under here? Why are we?
No, it's not utilities or anything. That was the way that spur was put in there originally. And TxDOT did not change that particular geometrics when they did this thing. They just did part of that one, part of that connection there, not the entire connection.
Because it was brought up that a right-hand turn lane here would be big trouble because of stuff, utilities and stuff.
Right away.
But so it's like I was wondering if you just put it over here and then turn this into the right-hand turn. Is there anything you can do with this big empty
If you
blank?
change it over to the right side, then that alignment underneath the overpass is gonna be a problem.
Right.
Routing traffic going from one end to the other. That becomes a big problem there. The only way to do, if anything, but it also has its, pros and cons. If you open up an additional lane on the right side and still avoid the equipment that's there, the pedestrian signal, and also the pedestrian signal primarily, that's where it is, and whatever other underground there is, you will be able to get just so many parking queue-in spaces for a right turn lane. I prepared a little sketch. I don't know whether you have it there or not. You don't have that in there. And it was sent to TxDOT so they could just entertain that possibility. And there were several. I put in two options. One that contained about 8 queue-in spaces to make a right turn lane. One that had 4 queue-in spaces to do that one, along with a little taper intake into that particular right turn lane. You would have to do some modifications to what you have there on that spur. That would be required that you're putting an 8-foot lane towards the north side and also remove the interior median that's about 4 foot wide. There's an interior median that goes through there. So you would remove that one, delete that thing, add another 8-foot area, and that would give you at least another 12-foot lane that would be serving as a right turn lane. That is what, like I said, we prepared a very fast schematic for them, for them to start, food for thought, the possibilities of it, and whether they would go for that or not.
Have you had much feedback? And you said there was a petition, and everybody was all for closing that off. Have you had any discussing it? So I assume that you've had quite a bit of feedback from that neighborhood on that spur? And they're-
Half the neighborhood.
Okay. So what are they saying?
No, besides them.
What are the
never-
complaints of it?
The biggest complaints are the people who take the turn off of Plantation onto the court. They
Mm-hmm.
don't stack one vehicle and wait for that person to get on the feeder. They go 3 into it, blocking people pulling into
exit.
Plantation Court or trying to leave Plantation Court.
Okay.
Very aggressively and so forth. And then outside is the safety hazards. Majority of the people besides 2 on that road are retired. A little bit calmer drivers, like certain individuals like to take routes around this town, while others choose to go a little bit faster. Everyone on that court is pretty well laid back. The fact they have a dead-end park at the end, they've all been bewildered by the amount of traffic that goes through there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to miss. The only reason none of them have shown is because they haven't been told that there's something to talk on, something to vote on, some detail that has been given down. Every conversation between me, Traffic Commission, side comments, every time TxDOT has come back with a different complaint or a different, oh, no, or this. So, again,
Yeah, it's an awkward
That's
design,
right.
for sure.
it is. And it creates a traffic flow issue, a safety issue, and it's,
And as we grow,
yeah.
just curious, thank you.
No, yeah.
Call a question.
Call the question.
Call the question. All right, have called a question to end discussion. So at this time, we have to go to a vote to end discussion. So all in favor of ending discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Okay. So we're going to end this. So do you have good direction on what we're going to go do, Modesto?
Yes, Sabrina will talk to TxDOT, asking them specifically about signage on, similar to the OCD Dixie, of restrictive time, of like, during these times, turn right. Are they open to that, or will that trigger still a traffic study? If it does trigger a traffic study, then we'll open our discussion with our traffic engineer, with Kimley Horn, and see if we can get a proposal from them before the next meeting. If it does not, then staff will look at any kind of recommended times with the police department and bring a proposal to you at that next meeting. So we'll work both and see what we can do.
Okay. Move on to item 3, is discuss setback requirements for residential property by parklands or drainage ways. So this did go back to planners, and it also went to parks.
It did. The Planning Commission looked at it and made the recommendation to council that there be no change. Their recommendation really was that rather than do a complete change, that maybe first explore, ask the citizens to explore their option with the zoning board of adjustments, rather than make a change. They did say, though, that if council felt very strongly about changing this, they would, they would work with you, because they would still have to have a change in the zoning and have public hearings. So they weren't outright opposed to it, but they just didn't see if there was a greater common good at this point in time.
If there was some relief that could be granted by a different board, right?
Right, from a different board. So they wanted to probably try, their recommendation was first to see if this was just a one-off, could it be handled that way versus a wholesale change to there. The other, I encouraged us to, staff to take it to the Parks Board, because I thought at some point in time, if the Planning Commission was looking at it, they would probably ask input from the Parks Board. that discussion also happened at the Parks Board. Their, I guess their reasoning probably was a little bit different, and that they felt that it could have a possible negative effect if a large structure was parked, closer to the park. Rob, I did not get to attend the meeting. Rob would probably give you a better insight of their discussion than I can, because I'm just giving it to you hearsay.
Yes, they felt that so many of our parks are like that they have, that they're surrounded by homes. And to let this happen, they felt that it would set a precedence, and all of the homeowners would want to do that. And then, kind of,
So
again, the atmosphere of the
I
park.
still never have it quite understood yet. So you've got a 15-foot, 8-foot easement, and then a 7-foot setback, correct? If you're building a 200 square foot building, you can use 7 of that 15 foot.
Correct.
If you're building a 201 square foot building, now you can't use any of it. You have to be inside that 15.
Correct. You have to
Okay.
be outside the 50.
I'm just curious, where did the 200 foot come from?
The 200 square foot, that just comes back from old ordinance.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean-
I'll ask Sal to come here and see if his memory is better than mine. I know that accessory structures got discussed for a
Because-
long time at
Yeah,
planners.
no, I agree.
It was understood that the primary accessory use building was a storage building, and storage buildings by nature are no more than 200 square foot, those portable buildings.
So there was no particular utilities reason or anything
No.
like that that couldn't be bigger than 200 square foot? I mean,
I don't know if we looked
It
at
doesn't
other,
make
we looked at a lot of other cities, but I don't know if that 200 number came from an
Correct.
average or something. They had to create a number.
And
but I don't
also,
know.
I think if I'm not mistaken, the building official may, there was a little bit of a trepidation, I guess, to allow anything larger than that, and it becoming an actual livable type situation. So, they had to set up a certain,
I mean, I would almost feel better about the ordinance to just say you can't use the 15 foot altogether versus saying, yeah, if it's 200, I mean, yeah, you can use the 7 foot of your property versus if it's 201 foot, you're no longer allowed to use your property. I mean, that just seems very arbitrary. But, so Modesto, what you were saying earlier is that this particular citizen that came that wanted to do the 360 foot built, he does have another avenue to potentially get an exception.
Yeah, so he has two avenues. I mean, it's not prohibited. I mean, he can build the 360-foot workshop in his, within his.
But not touching that 15 foot.
Within his space, if he doesn't touch it. There is room there, and so he can do, that's one option. And the other one is he can go to the zoning board of adjustment and ask for that. My personal opinion is that I think that's a harder
Yes.
benchmark or step to
prove
meet,
hardship.
because you have to prove a hardship, and right now I don't know what that would be, but he may be able to argue what that is.
One of the things I remember from
Prove
that reason
hardship
with
to use your
200 square foot building was that it's considered movable. So a lot of those buildings are movable, so if you were in the zone and if you had to move it for some reason for access to that area, it could be moved. I think that was, if I recall, that was the reasoning. So, I'm not saying
That
good or
may
bad.
be
I'm
the
just-
reasoning, but a lot of people put a foundation underneath those
A
200
200
square
square
feet.
foot,
Yeah.
yeah. And anchor
Lawnmower
it down.
parking garage.
That was a point that was brought up. Mr. Gilbert on the Planning Commission did bring up the point of, should the discussion be a different setback requirement when it's, an open, when it's next to an open space versus, home versus, home? Should it be a discussion of the size of the accessory structure? Should it be more than 200 square feet? That, all I remember is that took about a year to decide on what size of an accessory structure and what was defined as an accessory
Well,
structure.
at the same time, when we revisited that and we created the ordinance that we have today that has all these setbacks yes, it was size, because we had some people that felt that you could fill your whole backyard with a building, and you should be allowed to do that. But at the same time, we came back and we defined setbacks, and both, not only setbacks, but also from the back, but also from the sides, to match, for these larger buildings, to match up with the homes. Go back to the parks board comments and stuff, is that most of our parks, pocket parks, are large areas. And of this large, vast area, we've got a little playground in the middle of it. There's probably 200 feet before they touch a fence, or even more. And so that's, there's more of a barrier for them, even if it's not built on the property line, than there is for, again, the purpose of setbacks and stuff is so that you're not building on top of your neighbor, that you're not creating a problem with your neighbor. But here the neighbor is a large pocket park that has large green space and a playground in the middle of it. And also, we're talking about drainage ditches. We have these large drainage areas that there will never be anything built behind those homes, and we're restricting them on their usage of their property. Again, the restrictions that, under my understanding, is the only reason those restrictions are there, other than maybe a fire code, is just for appeal and look.
Yeah. The setback on the drainage ditches worries me a little bit more in some of the older neighborhoods, because sometimes we don't have drainage right away. There's none.
No.
And if there was no setback requirement, then it's difficult enough sometimes trying to get all the neighbors to agree to let us come in, because we don't own any property back there, but everybody wants us to kind of solve a drainage problem. If there was, and so it's not your typical drainage ditch, so it'd have to be defined differently, is that if all of a sudden there was major structures there, then I don't know how we would, get in there and solve some problems. But that's not I'm thinking of something when there's small little handheld ditches that are taking the water. I'm not thinking of the major ditches.
The way that this ordinance is written, if we are talking about just the homes that are around a park, okay, so these homes are backed up to parkland, that should not be the same thing as you have a setback if you're back to back with a neighbor. You see what I'm saying?
That's what the person is asking.
Right.
It's stating, yes.
So, I think I don't think we should just shut him down. I think that, what would be the next step?
Well, I think one of my questions would be, all of our parks are sort of different. And I don't know if it's always true that, and maybe it is, I don't know. But if the playground is always in the middle and there always is 200 feet, then it's less of an issue. But if one or two or three of them happen to be quite a bit smaller, and the playground or the playground's offset because there's a pond on the other side, or however it happens to be, it might not always be true that there's this huge gap. And I think that's something that zoning board could take into effect. Yeah. Well, in this unique case, there is a ton of space versus some other park where there might not be. I don't know.
Sal, I have a question for you. The only park that I can think of where we have a facility or facilities that are close to homes is Gator Park. And so I'm thinking the outdoor pool, things like that.
Sure.
In those subdivisions, do we try to comply with the same standards that are placed upon the home, or like setback requirements?
Yes, yes, we do.
So we'll apply the same setback requirements in the neighborhood for the park, so we can't put a facility that close. And that's the only one I can think of where we do have facilities that are close, to the neighborhood. Do we have any others?
You got Subs Field.
Well, correct. You have Suggs Field, but you're talking about facilities. Are you counting the fences, I guess? Ball field fences? As the
Talking
facility?
about that whole area around the fences back behind there. It gets along the line what you're saying about somebody's saying about the park, small park, and
But we don't have it specifically spelled out a setback requirement for a park. We just try to honor the same setback requirements.
Correct.
Okay.
To be good neighbors.
So 20 years from now, if it was 10 feet for a home back into a park, it could be, unless we define it, it could be 10 feet for the park as well. But again, it's rare. I'm just trying to foresee
Yeah,
any.
there aren't that many facilities that we have, parking facilities that we have any type of, I said, significant structure at that, within a certain amount, no. Typically, they would always try to center it or try to put it in a location that allows parking, basically what I'm saying.
Okay.
So, again, yes, we just had one resident that's made the request. I don't know that we have any record of anybody else making the request or questioning it. The challenge is that there's one gentleman, he's doing the right thing. He came to us, he knew he had an issue. He came to us to see if we could address it and see if there could be some flexibility provided. The challenge that we have is that I can go on Google Maps and I can show you across the city where there are extremely large structures that have been built within 15 feet of neighbors or even city parkways. So
It's already on the ground.
that's already on the ground. So, and, has it created a problem? Has it created problems for the parks? Has it created problems for neighbors? I know of a few neighbors that did have issue with a two-story structure going in their backyard neighbor's yard in the past. But again, we're not talking about backing up to residential property. We're backing up to city parkway, city parks. And so the
Robin-
question is if we want to pursue this or not.
One question I had, if we're talking, because you talk about the two-story, our ordinance just regulates square
Just square
footage.
footage, yes.
So I can build a 200 square foot two-story building.
higher than your house.
Can't be
Right,
higher.
but if I have a two-story house, I could build a 200 square foot, two-story.
And use the
Your
7
own
foot.
castle column.
Right.
Yeah.
Hold on. This is a question that David wanted to answer.
Okay. My question for Robin, I guess, was the concern, no, don't go too far, but was the concern from Parks Board, was it height related or was it just general, they didn't want anything, because I mean, an
think
8-foot fence?
They felt that, bringing that in there, one of the things that he had stated was, because some equipment was removed and you can see in his backyard too, and they were like, just about every one of those parks, you can see in everyone's backyard. That's not, you know what I mean?
From the top of the slide or something?
Yeah, you can see things like that. But that also, they just felt like a lot of people would start, maybe their opinion was everybody would want to be putting these things, and then that was their view. Again, it's,
I mean, that's
that's
not-
what they were looking at, to see that. They're looking at the parkland, so.
But they're not on the parkland, they're on their own property.
Right, yes, no, I
That's-
agree, yeah.
It's not parkland. It's
Is there a question for David?
To address accessory structures and height limitations, our zoning ordinance allows 15 feet height on accessory structures.
Okay.
While the accessory structure may be up to 50% of your overall square footage in size, 15 feet is the maximum height.
But again, his
Okay.
structure at 360 feet is not considered an accessory structure.
It would be considered an accessory
It
structure.
is.
It would be limited to the 15 feet in height.
Okay.
The way around that would be if he were to add it to his house.
Okay.
He attaches
Like-
it to his
So he
house, then it becomes
attaches
part of
to-
his primary structure,
Right.
and
Okay.
he can go up to 35 feet. Also of note, and this goes back to Ms. Seth's comment, the building code regulates structures 200 square feet and less differently than they regulate structures of over 200 square feet. So
Okay,
that
so
may
there's a
have,
reason.
there may have been some
Yeah.
history in regards to where that line in the sand came from.
Now, there
Thank
are
you.
other cities, I mean, I hate to cloud the situation. I will. Anna had, further have done
So
this.
David, if he attached it to his house,
Just a
how
minute.
far can he go back?
Just a minute. Modesto
Modesto's in the middle
was
Oh, I'm
speaking.
sorry.
So, Anna had done a study, but we didn't copy it here. I mean, there are other cities that have, 10-foot, easements. So, I mean, some are 15, some are 20. There's no one common denominator. We're close, but,
Talking about setback.
setbacks.
Right.
So, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, JB?
So if you attach it to your house, how far can you go back?
If he attaches it to his house, he's still gonna be subject to the same setback.
If it's over 200 square foot.
That's correct.
So if he wants to build a 360 square foot and he's got plenty of room between that 15 foot and his home, he can still build that 360 square foot.
Right. Which you can't do today. He's got room within his, what we call buildable area.
Right.
To build the structure. But it just has to be, it has to be closer to the home, and he wants to put it, push it back to give himself, a
On his
bigger,
property.
Leave a little more yard.
bigger yard space.
In his particular case, one of his limiting factors is the location of his home on that lot. He's on a corner lot, so he has plenty of space between his property line and the side of his house and the property line on the front of his house, meaning that his backyard is generally gonna be
More
smaller.
shallow.
And that
Which
may-
is something that the
may-
zoning board of
that
adjustments
may
would
be
take
his
into
argument
account.
with the
Yeah.
zoning board of adjustments.
Correct.
But even his 360 square foot accessory structure still keeps him within the overall allowance of buildings on that property. He'll be under the 35% and he'll have 15 feet in height that he can go.
If he goes to the ZBA and wins, it's all done. If he goes to the ZBA and loses, then he can still pursue these other
He
avenues,
could
correct?
pursue the.
Well, he's on a timeline too. He's trying to get it built with pricing and stuff. So he may have already decided just go ahead and forget it and build where he has to build now because of our requirements. It's not. I don't want to get hung up too much on his situation. What I will get back to is the whole question is that somewhere along the process we decided that we're going to put in a 15-foot setback on properties, residential properties on the back side. And the only question is the reason why that was put there is because you do have an easement, you have an 8-foot easement, so you have 7 foot of extra space so that you're not sitting on top of your neighbor. But in these circumstances, where the question on the table is where you have situations where a residential property backs up to a park that's basically open, an open parkway, or a large storm sewer. Do we want to keep, is it necessary to keep a 15-foot setback and just keep it at an 8-foot easement? That's the question.
Yes,
about if you-
and I agree with that 100%.
Especially if you are on a corner lot that your size
Yeah.
is the oddball, that you have a lot more front room and don't have enough back room, that you want to have some area, you don't want the children playing in the front yard and the street, so you want them playing in the backyard. So if you don't allow them to the situation, you just take away your whole backyard with your building.
Yep. I think the mayor probably phrased it exactly right about what the question should be. Is there any harm in allowing people to use their property that they purchased in this situation of the parks?
I think it should be open without park. It should be same thing in the residential area. 'Cause you're gonna find the same unique situation when you're on a corner lot in a residential area.
Well, I'm taking the corner lot piece out of it. I don't want to go, I personally don't want to specifically say a corner lot, because some corner lots are huge, depends on how everything's laid out. So it gets back, again, to the basic question is for in residential areas where you back up, a home backs up to a park or a large storm drainage ditch, is it necessary to have a 15-foot setback versus just maintaining the 8-foot easement?
Okay, so can we vote on that question, or does that need to go somewhere else? I mean, can we make
You
that
have to change the
decision?
ordinance, you have to go to planners and stuff, right?
But we can make the decision to say, hey, this is what we're. Yes.
We need direction, staff does, to then start the process. But yes, if council wanted to change this, then you'll have the public hearing, requirement, because you're changing a zoning requirement.
So what you could do is you could put a motion of what was just said and then see how council votes. If council agrees with that, then it would go through the process.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to do what the mayor just said. Just to shorten the sentence.
I'll second.
Oh.
Do you understand what?
To make a motion to
No, you
reduce.
need to
I'm asking
Raise it.
Sally.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to, in the scenario of residential properties around park plan, to eliminate that additional 7-foot setback and drainage ditches. To eliminate that 7-foot setback and leave the setback at the 8-foot required easement.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so
Should I have
Can
left
we-
it at what the mayor
can we-
said?
Yeah. Or is your clarification is on the motion, or is it?
it's the clarification on the easement, because I don't know if there's always an easement somewhere. There
Yeah,
happens to be an easement here,
yes,
but there's not always an easement.
correct.
And so,
It has to be on the matter of a
I think,
setback.
I think you'll need
Building
to,
line.
Okay.
you'll need to define what a setback is.
So, yeah, so just change it to just move the setback from 15 to 8.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to move the setback in residential areas around parkland and drainage, backed up to drainage ditches, to 8 foot.
Okay, just drainage ditches and nothing
And
else?
And parkland.
And park.
And parks, and originally I thought in my, my discussion item, I had also included either waterways or water bodies, for example, lakes.
Okay.
And whether you
wanna
wanted
add
to
those back?
apply that to the same thing, because there's also properties that back into a water body.
All right, so I'd like to make the 700th motion to eliminate setbacks around residential areas.
That back,
You're going from 15 feet to 8 feet.
You're not eliminating.
You're
Okay.
not eliminating.
But is there a difference between a setback and an easement, or is that all
Yeah.
one thing?
Two different things.
they're two different
Totally
things, yeah. An
Right,
eas-
so the easement needs to be there if it needs to be.
It doesn't necessarily have to, I mean, doesn't have to be
Somebody
an
help me.
easement out there in a lot of
So you're,
cases.
so you're going to change the setback from 15 feet, for those situations they're all talking about, from 15 feet to 8 feet.
Okay.
Can we just talk about,
Just a minute.
is the?
I've got to get a motion.
And I have a
before we go into discuss-
simple solution, I think. Isn't the problem the 200 square foot rule? I mean, can we just,
Let's not go, oh my
was like, could you just, if you remove that, then
Don't go there.
you want to treat buildings bigger than 200 square foot the same as buildings less than 200 square
No,
foot.
I just want them to be able to use their property regardless of what they're using. I want them to use their property. So make a motion.
We can make a motion, we can get a second, then we can have discussion. If we want to change it, then you'll change it after your discussion.
Yeah, I don't care what size the building is.
So I have a motion and a second from Mr. Buell. Is that still correct? Yep. Okay. Any discussion? So what is your question?
I don't understand the motion.
Okay.
The motion is to take currently where we have parks, residential area that backs up to a park or a waterway or a storm drain, is that to move the setback, required setback from 15 feet to 8 feet. Okay? So that puts everybody on a playing field regardless of what size it is, because you can't put a 200 square foot building within the 8-foot easement. They still have to abide by the 800 foot easement, correct?
Correct, now,
Even though they don't.
okay, let me give you some, for examples. Where you do have easements, I would establish your building setback lines at 8 foot or at the easement line, whichever is
Okay.
the greater.
Yeah, there are a couple of things where on this.
Well, sometimes we
This,
gotta.
if you vote on this, this will give us a little bit of direction, because I don't think it'll be the final thing, because, one, we've only been looking at R2. Setback requirements differ in different zones. 15 is almost the common. I think
15 is the common.
I
The
think
only
when
one
we get
that's-
to estate, it's 25.
Yeah, the only
possibly
one that's
25.
different would be the estate.
But there are things that overrule the setback requirement. And it's like, you can make it 0, and sometimes they still can't build into it. So an easement would override the setback requirement.
Right.
In addition, on the creek, the drainage way will require, you could say 0, meaning it goes all the way down to the property line, which is the middle of the creek. We are not gonna let somebody build all the
the
way
middle of
down
the
there
creek.
because we have to keep our flood insurance for the city. So there are other mechanisms that override the setback requirement.
Okay.
So this is just direction to staff that you just gave us.
Yes.
So why do we, yeah,
Broken up is completely different.
What?
so why are we voting if it's just given
It's just direction.
direction
You
to
don't have
staff?
vote.
No,
Oh,
no, I think we need
Very
clear, I
helpful.
think we need to clear,
very
we need to give clear direction as far as if the council is in support of this or not. If there's not enough support to go forward with this, then we just kill it. That's why I'm asking for a motion. Because I don't want staff to go through a lot of work, and then majority of council was against it at the very beginning. So this is the question, do you want to move it forward or not with the direction that's given through this motion? Okay.
So we vote it down, that's it, that's all, we're not gonna discuss it anymore. If we approve it, it's going to staff.
It's going to go, staff's going to work on it some more.
Okay.
Until there's a new city council. It always, I mean,
What are you saying?
Okay, so we
I'm just saying.
What are you saying?
No, I'm just saying, it's like this, I mean, it can always come up every year.
I got you.
It doesn't close forever.
Yeah.
I got you.
So, so I have a motion and a second and so, if there's not any further discussion, we'll go forward with a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Okay, we'll start to
Took a
work
long
to.
time to get that.
I'm sorry I wasn't very articulate with that.
That's okay. Item 4, we're going to discuss and consider adding additional holidays to approve municipal building strip lighting policy. Rob,
Yes.
you want to light up the city?
Yes, we're gonna light up the city. So, I believe the dates with the asterisks were already approved. I think those were correct, okay. So, because of the lights that we have on it's on the city hall, the library, and I think of it, the civic center, PD, municipal court, make sure I get them all right. Anyway, they were thinking it would be a really nice thing, you know, as you do in other cities, on some of these holidays, to set the lights out there, and just show our respect, so.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the updated holiday light up Lake Jackson.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilwoman Seth, and I'll go second with Councilman Baker. Any further discussion? Anywhere? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Move on to resolution approving budget amendment to carry over unspent budgeted project funds from fiscal year 2021. Pam?
This is our normal budget amendment we do every year to carry over funds budgeted for projects that we weren't completed in the prior fiscal year to this year, so that we can hopefully get them spent this year.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And going to item 6. Consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing publication of notice of intention to issue certificates of obligation for park restrooms and playgrounds.
Pam, I have a couple of just kind of education questions on this, not questioning questions. So in relation to the half cent, what is our current CO debt level, like ballpark?
I can't tell you off the top of my
Okay.
head.
And do we have any kind of limit in place of where we say, okay, we won't go over this amount of CO debt?
We try to limit the amount of our debt service so that the balance in the fund equals next year's debt service.
So you could always cover it if needed?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that was-
if we went completely 0, we have enough balance to pay off the next
debt.
year's
Okay.
debt. And the other item is that we're a little early, but, one of the reasons why we decided to recommend to council to do a debt issuance on this is because next year, in '23, April '23 is our last payment for the golf course. So that frees up a little bit of money to take on, this level of debt. Or we actually could take on more, but we've tried to take a conservative approach and only take what's needed.
Thanks.
And just for educational purposes, we cannot go out for a general obligations bond because of the way the half-cent sales tax was set up by the state. The state does not allow us to do that. The only way we can take out debt is through a CO.
Yes. Yeah, we asked years ago when we adopted this, if there could be a change in the legislation to allow the voters to vote on each project, and that never passed the legislation to change. So this is the only way that we can do these projects.
And also, does that help keep our A rating? The insurance, or was the A rating we get, or
The bond
the bond
rating.
rating?
The bond rating,
Never
this one really, I don't know if it has a rating. We usually, pay insurance on this one, do we pay your insurance?
Insurance went away a long time
Okay,
ago.
so,
Several years ago.
so we still have the same rating, and the
Same
reason
bond
why,
rating.
the reason why is because we issue this debt, but we also back it with our full faith.
Right. Okay, any other questions on this? Again, this is for $3.5 million certificate obligation bond, and this is for restrooms and for parks renovation, park ground renovations. All right, I'll take a motion.
Move for approval.
Got motion to approve from Councilman Buell.
Second.
Okay, I've got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Mayor, the only other thing I wanted to, on page 47, you'll see the calendar that Ms. Eves provided. We'll open bids and award the certificates on May 2nd. Is that Yes, May 2nd.
Okay. All right, move on to update on new business coming to the city. And again, this is what your department knows. It's not rumor.
Yes, we're not gonna delve into rumors. So we have, in the last 2 weeks, we did not receive any new applications for new businesses that have come through for plan review.
Okay,
There you go.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 8, and this is city manager's update, and item A is going to talk about debris.
No, I really, we had this on there. I really don't have any changes. We've started our application, preparing our application with, gosh, I cannot remember the name of the company.
Starts with A.
It does. I keep on, Altamira, I keep on wanting to say Odura. That's another company. Yeah, no changes for last time. We'll get that in before our deadline and see if we can get approval for them.
Okay. And sounds like every time, when we've talked, every time you've talked to somebody on these, the volume keeps on decreasing as far as the volume of debris.
Yes.
It's
And
disappearing.
we're probably, I think the engineer, Sabrina, is the engineer, have they made their own, are they going to make their own independent measurement of the pile?
He was out there the other day. I took him out to the site and we did look at it. He was also got some more information from Thelston. So yes, I do believe he's going to give me, I'm not going to say that it's 100% accurate, but he's going to give me the good ballpark, what he's looking at and what it seems. But he thought it was a little bit less than what we were worried about.
It's shrinking as
maybe
as the
it's
months go
compacting.
by.
Maybe some beavers are damming up Worcester
I don't
Creek.
know, something's happening. It's disappearing.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to go to construction updates. Sal?
If Felson is involved in the measurement, you
It
don't
will
know
be
whether it's gonna be accurate.
It will be accurate.
Down to the twig.
Yeah, it's gonna be accurate, no matter what. As far as the projects, CIP projects that we're involved in, or we are part of the process, The emergency Beechwood Chemical Building is moving at a very slow pace. And we are meeting with HR Green tomorrow to discuss that particular project, to get it going finally. And also along the same way, we're going to be discussing with him the wastewater treatment rehab that has been also assessed by them, and now they're ready to give us a proposal on the actual construction or reconstruction of some of those items there. About $3 million worth of repairs. So we're in that process right now. On the downtown project, almost all the sanitary sewer work has been installed. The connections haven't been made, but the main runs of sanitary sewer are already in ground. There's one last segment of sanitary sewer that was not originally included in the project, but we realized, or we found out that the pipe that we thought was there is undersized and is creating problems on that particular lift station basin, which is the one coming from the Wasatch area and goes right through the middle of the North Parking Place area. There's a segment of it going down to about midpoint along that North Parking Place that needs to be burst. And that is, right now we're asking a different company, not this particular one, a pipe bursting company to give us a proposal, and I know that we're working on it. We should be receiving it by with this week's end, and that'll be included as part of the project hopefully with the allowance contingencies that we have in that project, and probably hope to do it with that. The canopy area, all the canopy is now being removed. If you go down there, you'll see that there isn't anything left. Now it's a matter of going back in there and doing some, what the windstorm consultant has indicated as being the way to get windstorm certification on some of the repairs. Things that weren't known at the time, now they have been bared out, and they're going to be doing some modifications that hopefully we still will do within the proposal. It's an item that's still under discussion. We're also going to be testing some of the new connections that the windstorm person has recommended, to see whether they're going to meet the pool test on those particular connections. The cured in place or the shy pond outfall system that is also being lagging significantly. We had a discussion with the high density pipe, large diameter installer, or really it's really the main I guess the main source for those installers. We gave him all the information. We had a phone conversation, and we provided him all the information. He told me that he would give us their opinion on whether or not this particular process is going to work probably by Wednesday or Thursday of this week. And if it does happen, then we'll start talking about how much it's going to cost. That's part of the discussion that we're having with them. Okay. You are aware of the tank mixer contract or project that was bid out, came out without any interested parties. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to be doing our own contracting for that particular project.
Sal, was there any insight of why? No bidders?
Well, most of them are subcontractors that are specialized in a specific item. They don't like to mix anything, especially electric contractors. The electric contractors can do that work. They can't do some of the other work. They rather just stick to one particular discipline. They don't want to, nobody wants to tackle in the full thing. The project guesstimate prior to the bid was already higher than we originally anticipated. So that's when we decided, we feel, and Debbie feels very strongly, that we can sort of take that out by portions.
So you'd be,
So we'll be the
Be our
general.
own sub. yeah.
you'd sub out.
Yeah,
the-
we
the-
sub out all the work to all the different disciplines.
Have we done enough engineering to
Yes.
prove that
Oh.
we can mount those agitators from above on
We-
those concrete structures?
We have the supplier that can do that installation if he only does that particular
Okay.
work.
Great.
And the way we were talking about this is going to the buy board. I believe there is that equipment that Debbie wanted to install anyway, and do it that way, where we would be buying the equipment, and then we would then subcontract all the different pieces.
Okay.
Okay.
The lift station 1 assessment and design is still proceeding. We haven't heard anything lately from Kimley Horn. And I think that is probably the extent of our, on the street project along Shady Oaks. We have met with the engineer again, starting to discuss the drainage item so that the design can begin. They are continuing doing a lot of the surveying on that particular project. And one last thing, we are also tied in with the animal shelter, trying to get, and we have already called in some of the geotechs that are going to be doing some work for the architect that's doing the design. So we have engaged the testing lab to go out there and do whatever the request is from the architect.
Thank you.
Good.
So I have a few updates too. The roof, they are completed now with the flat roof portion of the recreation center. The front metal areas, they were going to start next week on those, and they decided to wait another week since it's spring break, because we're going to have to reroute the entrance to the rec center for safety reasons and stuff. So they just thought it would be a really busy week, and they just didn't want to back up traffic and stuff. When we get ready for that, though, I will get with Rasco this week, because we're going to have to really work with, all the kids that are coming around there. So we'll work with that to make sure that they're not in the way, or, it's not a hazard or anything. Again, today, he said he checked with the supplier, and everything for the natatorium roof is supposed to be in at the end of March. Keep your fingers crossed. So, they're still trying to be on schedule for that. We have finished Garland tennis courts, the resurfacing and the fences. It looks really great. I had to close them up late Friday, so I didn't get a really good picture. So we'll get the nets on. We're going to open it up tomorrow. We're going to try to get the nets back up. But the courts look really good. Those guys did a great job. So it's the fences, everything. It just looks really, really nice. And I'll have pictures for y'all too on that one. So
Yeah, and we need to promote that.
yes, yeah.
Promote the tennis
Definitely.
courts are open and what we've done to it and stuff.
Yeah, and lastly, the skate park, the grand opening or groundbreaking will be the 14th at 10:30 a.m. Everybody will be getting an invitation for that.
You said it says 10 a.m. here.
10 a.m., sorry, whoops.
Is it
What
10:30 or
day?
10?
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Monday, next Monday. Yes,
Okay,
at
good.
10. You're right. It's 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Yes. I sent it out to Vicki. She'll be getting that out too. We'll have the paper there. We're getting everybody together. I'm working on the itinerary for that. They did go out and mark some areas off, and they've been working with the engineer doing the soil testing for the materials and all of that stuff. We've picked the color for the concrete, we got the bench, the trash can, the lighting, all that's been approved through engineering. So we're ready to go. So you'll see some
So
movement
for
over
the
there.
groundbreaking, you're going to have Red Bull and Mountain Dew for the refreshments.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I second that. Love Red Bull.
Yeah. So. No.
All right, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yep. So anyway. It's all
Yeah,
good.
that's good. The community has been waiting a long time for that, so it's good to get that going. Anything else, Megan, on projects downtown
I'll be the fun one. The animal control facility and the library flooring are moving along just
Moving
great.
along.
Library flooring will start beginning of next month.
We were supposed to have a show the design of the animal shelter.
It is not currently ready. So we, the animal design, we have a preliminary design that staff has seen, some staff, and they are currently working with engineering to do geotech work and survey work and all of that. Once that is complete,
So we'll have that on the next agenda.
potentially, apparently it's difficult to get geotech work done right now because of equipment or labor, something. So the people we currently use are not available. So we are now having to find another contractor
But
to
do
do
you
the
see
work.
any major changes to the facade or anything like that?
I do not, pending that the ground comes back okay for us to position it how we want it to go.
Like, you can show us facade and
Yes.
I would love to.
square feet.
We'll have it on the
It
next.
would be
we'll
my
have- we'll have it
pleasure.
on the next agenda. That's let's
Pending geo
Yes, pending.
Pending a Felston.
Bethesda. Mr. Water, okay?
Okay, we'll put that on there. That's,
All right, that'd be
that's just
good.
the
That'd be good information. Press on. All right,
I did have a citizen reach out today and brought this up. Just said she was walking around downtown picking up trash. She said there are no trash receptacles of any kind anywhere downtown. Not sure.
Modesto can
how
answer
that
that
That is
question.
that's a conscious decision.
Okay.
One, we don't have the staff to pick them up,
Yeah.
to clean them out, and then the other thought process, because we've just had this long discussion over and over, is that the law-abiding citizens, you know, will always we'll take it with them or find the trash can. But there's a lot of trash up there. Those residents or visitors that are doing that still won't do it, even if the trash can's there. And so we limited, we had a limit of trash cans in South Parking Place because it was a rentable space to work around that. But we've not put them all through downtown. But the big point was we just didn't have staff to empty them.
Will it
we
look
did,
like that in the future when
and
it-
then we didn't think it would solve the problem.
Okay.
Yep. But something else that we can talk about, if you want to, we can talk about it in budget.
I'm not saying it's a great solution. It's just
But there is a growing feeling that we're going to have to put more in budget to maintain what we've built in downtown. And Modesto is,
We could do adopt a trash can. Council could each pick a trash can, help us empty it.
yeah, okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, can I paint mine the way I want to?
Yes, decorate it.
Yeah, decorate it the way I want
I mean,
to.
some of the cities like Surfside at their chili cook-off, they do this, they have a contest and they decorate the trash cans with, seaside,
Right.
seascapes. Some really talented people.
Yeah, the challenge is not the garbage can, it's the garbage and how you get it out of, how do you keep it,
Challenge is somebody putting it in the can.
right, putting it in the can. That is the next thing. All right, so we'll jump off into items of community interest. We'll start, Mr. John Baker.
No, sir.
All right, Rhonda?
Nope.
Vinnie?
What's that?
Matt?
I'm sure I'm
You're not gonna
forgetting.
tell us,
I'm sure-
remind us to vote?
No, you did a great job voting. A lot of people found a lot of people found 202 Peach Street. Keep
Yeah.
that location in mind. We got municipal elections coming up. A lot of candidates in here, and runoffs as well will be happening in May.
24.
So keep your voting hats on for a couple more months. Same location.
Same location.
You can vote
Same
anywhere.
back
You can
channel.
vote anywhere in the county.
And, yeah, that's true. But if you're going to vote in Lake Jackson, you do it at 202 Peach Street.
What's the address again?
202 Peach Street, Lake Jackson, Texas, 77566.
All right.
You'll pick us up.
You'll pick us up.
If that's what it takes.
Better be careful.
Yeah, that's right. All right, I don't, yeah, I had something, but it escaped me. So go ahead. Do y'all have anything, staff?
I do.
All right.
We still have some adult Easter egg hunt tickets
Oh, that's
left,
right.
so we
Oh,
did have a huge
really?
crowd. I know, yeah, I was shocked, because I sent pictures, I was like, oh my gosh, look at the line, because it was all the way down the front, out, you know, and they had them when they came in all the way around the racquetball courts. But yes, we still do have some of those available if people want to
And
come.
what is the main prize this year?
Well, we always give out TVs. We give out the big TVs. We're having a hard time finding gaming systems. So if y'all see any on sale anywhere, let us know. But we're still, we've got our list, so we're definitely getting. So we have a big list of prizes.
And you have to be 18 or over?
Yes, for the adult egg hunt. If you're younger, you can do the teen egg hunt. There is one for that. It's $7, and we give out good stuff for that too.
There were a couple of.
The 14th of April, the day before Good Friday.
How many eggs you putting out?
For the adults, God, you're gonna ask me that.
About how many?
I think it's around 20,000. We put out.
20,000?
We buy we buy, yes, tons of eggs because we have all 4 of them. And I don't know if that's the total count, but
How many prizes you got? You like a lottery.
we do a lot.
Lottery.
Yeah,
There
we do about $12,000 worth of prizes.
And how much is the ticket?
$15.
There were some switches for sale at Target yesterday, I'll have you know, just in case you're.
Yes. Well, we can
Really
find
looking.
those. It's the other ones. But anyway, but yeah, so we've got our list.
PS5s.
Yeah, we're
Video
getting stuff.
games.
So it's a great event. If y'all haven't been, you should come. So.
All right.
Or if you want to just witness a
Bedlam?
very funny event, go watch it.
There-
It's all ages.
Eggs gone and
We
just
had
like
people with
that.
walkers before, and they pushed it out the way.
As men and women together?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Comical.
I do remember what I had, and that is that apparently, I'm checking with Centerpoint, but I think we have a door-to-door scam that's going on right now to where there's a company that they're walking around with a shirt on that is, let me find it. Yeah, their company on their shirt is Lumino as a company name.
What is it?
Lumino. And, you know, what they're telling people is that your power meter may have been damaged during the freeze, and it may be reading incorrectly, and so they are willing to replace it and absorb any fees associated with the replacement. So I've got to call in to Centerpoint. I think it's a scam. I don't know how a power meter could be damaged during the freeze.
They're not asking for money?
You have something?
They knocked on my door like 20 minutes before I left to get here.
Okay.
They ask for money?
No, my husband shut the
Then
door.
what's a scam?
I don't think
Chief.
they'll stop by
They're
my
asking you
house.
for
I don't
they
think so.
want you to hire them to do the service.
So the chief will check for us tomorrow to see if it's a registered
They see
vendor.
that police car out there, they ain't won't stop by my house.
Okay.
Yeah, they ask you if your meter has been replaced in the last 2 months, and you say no, and they say, you know, would you like me to tell you about it? And I said, no, thank you, so.
Okay, so you've seen it. Okay, all right.
Okay.
So
One more thing.
if it's a scam, we'll get it out. We'll share it with the community.
Uh-oh, wait a minute, he
You
don't
have
talk
it-
that much,
you
he
have
don't
info?
talk that much.
They didn't talk.
He don't talk that much, so.
Before I get on my bike and go home, this is a reminder that next Monday, we have the workshop for the Northwood 4 PID.
What?
The PID
The PID.
for Northwood.
Yep,
Oh,
5:30.
we get dinner again, huh?
Dinner's at 6, 5:30.
Yeah.
Okay,
5:30, I
Starts
would,
at 6.
we'll keep it warm
Just
for you.
Yep.
All right.
if everybody shows up.
Okay. All right. Well,